Today I'm showing you some of my magic collection, mostly classic gimmick-heavy tricks often found in magic sets for kids. Besides probably being nostalgia-inducing, these tricks are easy to explain and discuss. And why would I want to discuss them? Well, magic is a performance art rooted in applied psychology, philosophy, and technology. Studying magic tricks is actually a great way to develop an intuitive sense of how severely afflicted people are with perceptual and cognitive biases, and how easily people are misled into believing things that aren't true. Magic tricks primarily appeal to wishful thinking, a desire to believe the things we wish were true in spite of counter-evidence. Most magic tricks seemingly violate basic laws of physics to effortlessly achieve things which would ordinarily be extremely difficult or impossible to accomplish. Essentially, every magic trick is a subverted chain of logic. A series of premises is established by a trick that logically lead to an ordinary conclusion, and yet the actual conclusion is something entirely different, a logical non sequitur. The apparent explanation is a missing premise that magic happened, but the actual explanation involves at least one mistake in the premises added, missing, or sometimes just in the wrong order. Most commonly, the mistake is that we make unwarranted assumptions, implicitly adding false premises. Many of the tricks shown in this video exploit our tendency to assume that continuity in appearance, time, and position are good indications of identity. This allows for switching between multiple copies of an object with slightly different properties to achieve results that look supernatural. The same tendency is used for movie magic. Stunt doubles, prop variants, and CGI make it possible to bestow real-looking characters and objects with unreal characteristics. Movies also share a proclivity for exploiting optical illusions, but unless they're mystery films, they aren't so quick as magic tricks to deliberately confound understanding with red herrings and false proofs. I'll break down the mechanics of these tricks starting with this one, which creates an illusion of invisibility. The interior spring of the case is a red herring. It's meant to suggest the illusion is possibly optical and distracts from the true solution, which is that the pen never actually enters the void. It only appears to because of the motion of the cap and our assumption that the cap and the body of the pen must move in tandem. An automatic mechanism deploys a partial duplicate of the pen on the opposite side, and the continuity of motion sells the idea that the pen extends through the invisible space. Note that the mechanics of this vanishing effect are not dissimilar to the classic thumb trick, which itself is a miniature version of the sawing a woman in half trick, demonstrating how the exact same principles can produce different illusions at different scales. This $50 coin is actually two gimmicked coins squeezed together. A specially made plastic ring holds back the edge of the shell coin so that the second coin can be thrown free. A shell is the embodiment of visual illusion. We see a familiar outer surface and assume its volume. This concept is exploited in making film and video game sets to save on production costs, but in magic, it's usually used to assist and vanish in production effects. Here, the $50 shell will easily absorb the volume of the copper coin, whose $50 back then completes the appearance of an ordinary $50 coin. This allows for an almost perfect vanish of the copper coin, but an ordinary duplicate of the copper coin sells the illusion even more. Some sleight of hand can be used to seamlessly switch between the two coins to make the gimmicked coin seem ordinary, and producing the ordinary coin as if it were the vanished one turns this into a penetration effect, which directs suspicion away from the guilty $50. This prop simply switches one paper for another. Notice that the reverse visual illusion, transforming the bill into a blank piece of paper, would be physically more impossible and yet much less satisfying as wish fulfillment because of the incredibly strong psychological illusion that the bill is exponentially more desirable and harder to create, despite it being, in most respects, a very similar piece of paper to the blank one. This drawer box has an inner lining which can be selectively retained through a hidden switch. The solution would be immediately obvious to even the most uninitiated were it not for our pre-existing experience with ordinary drawers. The fact that this prop can perfectly resemble an empty drawer encourages the incorrect assumptions that can make the appearance of the context seem impossible. Similarly, earlier versions of this so-called ball and vase trick used a chicken egg and egg cup to be more familiar and convincing. As with the coin trick, a shell is used to accomplish a vanish in production of a ball, and sleight of hand substitutions can make the ball and its shell seem to be the same object. This blade guide is innocent, but it can entirely hide the trick blade, and the vertical split allows squeezing to separate the blade into its components. The blade is really two-in-one, a core inside a similar-looking shell. The differing thicknesses are quite imperceptible when seen from head-on. The closed blade is simply switched for the open one, and then switched back under the innocent-looking slide actions, making it seem to be a single blade that is supernaturally semi-solid. Of course, this pervasive switching bag has an interior divider so that one bag can be imperceptibly switched for another. The wooden rim hides the edge of the divider through which a half circle of wire is threaded that extends under the handle, allowing the divider to be manipulated unseen. The black interior is not essential to the prop's functionality, but again appeals to psychology. Darkness is the absence of visual information and creates mystery around what could be present. The black lining encourages us to imagine an infinite and impossible range of contents to the bag, treating it as an impenetrable black box, something not meant to be understood. Threading fishing line through this packet of cards turns it into a switching device. There's only enough slack to accommodate a small packet of cards, so attempting to insert a second pack at another location levers up the first. Once again, two cards are being substituted with near duplicates to make it seem as if a single pair has been magically transformed to vanish the ink from their backs. The switching gimmick is well hidden at the bottom of an ordinary deck of cards. The first 30 or so cards are completely ordinary, and it's tempting to use ever-popular but erroneous inductive reasoning to infer that all the subsequent cards are equally ordinary. Half the cards in this deck are blank-faced and the other half are blank-backed. The second half has been cut slightly shorter than the first. With the two sets interleaved, thumbing over the short edge of the deck causes the cards to fall in pairs. Depending on the direction used, this shows either only the printed or only the unprinted sides of the cards. This particular trick deck also has the printed surfaces coated with matte transparent paint to give them a much rougher texture than the blank surfaces. This means that spreading the cards while applying pressure also causes them to pair up to make the deck appear blank. So this trick produces a similar effect of vanishing ink from cards as the prior trick, but rather than using a switch, only half the card surfaces are shown at a time using two different methods. Using multiple methods to achieve the same illusion is a classic magician's technique. Attentive members of my audience should notice that this actually relates to the limits of the scientific method that I described in my video titled How to Know It's True. Just because you observe the same results multiple times, that doesn't prove any particular cause explains the results. There are potentially an infinite number of explanations for the same observed result, and it's quite possible that different explanations are true at different times. Since no single solution resolves all instances of the effect, it becomes easier to give up reasoning about physical mechanics and accept the apparent simplicity of magic as a solution. Wait, am I talking about magic tricks or am I talking about society? Whatever. Happy New Year's!